I think that is a really good point, Scott. Is like we're going over our top 10 books, right? 5 each. But at the end of the day, just reading these doesn't do anything. Right? And sometimes I know, especially with other business owners and entrepreneurs, you can just be voracious to consume as much knowledge as possible.
Yeah.
And that's great, except when you don't put it into practice. It should never be about how many books you have read. It should be about how many books you've implemented.
Welcome to the Profit Lifestyle for Fitness Entrepreneurs podcast. My name is Scott Carpenter. I am a personal trainer turned multiple gym owner and investor who's already been through the rock bottom and near bankruptcy in the fitness business. But I've been lucky enough to come out the other side and have turned the profits of my fitness business into indestructible wealth. I'll be sharing the no bullshit strategies, tactics, and advice to win big in business and in life. So if you're a gym owner, a personal trainer, or an online coach who wants to make multiple six figures in take-home profit and have the freedom with your time to actually enjoy it, subscribe now to this podcast. This is the show for you. All right, guys, welcome back to the Profit Lifestyle for Fitness Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Scott Carpenter, along with Andy Boimila. And what we're going to do today is go through our top 10 book recommendations, 5 apiece. And Andy, I think we're doing this because we both have seen tremendous growth from reading books, right?
So like these top 5 for me have really shaped how I view business, how I am as a leader. I mean, even really how I've gone about just running my own life for the most part. I mean, I did do mostly business stuff, but you know, my life is my business, so they're kind of intertwined. But these have really helped shape who I am. So yeah, I think it's super important.
Agreed. And now you're thinking, oh man, maybe I should have put some more personal ones that mine are geared towards business, but it shapes the way because they some of these in here, and I'll explain why, they're actually philosophical books in a way. And it blends, right? And this is just a testament to who we are and who you are as the listener. We're all entrepreneurs. We're growth minded. We're seeking more. And we understand that pursuing a route in business also helps us become who we need to become. So the business and the personal development is really overlap for people like us. I think entrepreneurship is a hack for self-actualization. It really lays bare, your faults, and you got to accept responsibility for everything. And it's hard. It's a hard path, but it is such a rewarding path. At the end of the day, we wouldn't have it any other way. So with that being said, the first book that I picked is The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And it's a book on stoicism, which is a philosophy. And almost everybody's heard of it now, right? But I've read this book or listened to it on Audible. Most of these books I have both in print and on Audible because when I work out, when I drive, I absorb it and do all that stuff. And then I also like print because I'm a very visual person. And these best books, it's not always about reading more and more in books, right? I'm going to read 100 books this year. Sometimes you just need to read the really transformative ones over and over again. And every time you read it, you understand it on a deeper level. And because you're a different person, because you have a growth mindset and you're constantly evolving, you're a different person when you read it, and it speaks to you differently. So anyways, The Obstacle is the Way I read, 10 to 12 times. It's probably my most gifted book because I give it to people going through a very hard time. And if you didn't listen to the last podcast episode, I talked about a really horrendous experience that I went through when I was working 70, 80 hours a week, every single day, 4:30 to 8 p.m. That might be an understatement. Every Saturday and every Sunday. And I was scared for my life about paying my bills. I felt like a total and utter failure. And reading that book is what got me through those darkest times. It completely got me through the darkest times. And the whole premise is that, right, it's not the obstacle and it's not the pain you're facing. It's not even a bad thing. It's not even a neutral thing. It's actually a good thing. Because that pain and that obstacle and all that adversity you face actually helps you become the person that you need to become. And that has been proven true over and over in my life. The worst things that have happened to me, or not happened to me, but I caused in many instances, in the long run, have become the absolute best things to have ever happened to me. To a T, all of them. It doesn't see it and feel like it when you're in the throes of it. but it is the best thing that can ever happen to you. So that book, if you're going through a tough time in anything, I've gifted that book to more people than anything else. So I absolutely love it. It helped save my life, really. The next one is The One Thing by Gary Keller. Are you familiar with that, Andy?
I'm familiar with it. I actually haven't read it, so I'm super excited to actually hear your little take on it. I might add it to my reading list.
Yeah, it's a good book. I've read it multiple times, and Gary Keller is I think he owns the largest real estate brokerage in the world, I believe. Um, but yeah, Keller, Gary Keller, Keller Williams Realty.
Oh,
Um,
okay, that
yeah,
makes sense now.
yep. And this was one of my first ones to really help me determine what are my priorities and where am I going, and organize it and basically work on those big goals. Think bigger and how to work on those big goals. Beneficial for any business owner because
Yeah.
what we could or should do, it's infinite, but it's really focusing and you've heard me say this though, Andy, what's the one thing such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary?
Yep.
It's that one question to ask. And that's what we need to be spending our time on. Because, yeah, I could do all these 18 different things, but I wouldn't have to should I just do this one damn thing. All of that would be easier or unnecessary. But that one thing is usually uncomfortable, and we don't want to do it.
No, because it's probably hard, and we
Yeah,
don't like doing hard things
it's hard, and we'll just fill our days with busy work until the end of time.
because
But
it's easy.
that's not what helps you elevate to where you need to
No,
be. So that book was instrumental for me in that respect. The third book on my list, Expert Secrets
I'm
by Russell
shocked.
Brunson. Yeah, shocker. For marketing, guys, for marketing, there's probably no better book on the planet. Russell Brunson, right? He founded ClickFunnels. You guys know him. The awards for the two comma clubs that got him behind me in different businesses. But like, if you need a book to understand and implement marketing, you can't do much better than that. And that is one you're going to need to read and reread over years because you're going to see it through a different lens every time. And it's just like you start to gain a deeper understanding of what it is. You're like, oh, no, okay, I get that finer point now. I just breezed through it and didn't understand it before. Now I get it. But holy cow, that's very powerful. Absolutely. It's probably my number one marketing book. Fourth book on my list is 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan. So I love this book. And 10X is not necessarily like if you're doing 500,000 in business going to 5 million, although it absolutely can be. It's really about evolving as a person. And a lot of times it's with your business. But it is about thinking bigger and then identifying like your special talent, right? What you're the best in the world at, your unique value, and really going all in on that in order to make big jumps. And we've all made 10X jumps. We just don't necessarily recognize it. Not necessarily, in business, but also in other things. When I had the courage to leave my full-time job and I bought a failing business losing $2,000 a month, but I shifted from being an employee into being an entrepreneur. That's a 10X jump right there. Most people are way too scared to do it.
unless you're listening to this podcast, at which point you probably own a business and therefore you've done a 10X jump.
You've done it. We've all done 10X jumps, right? And just there's no looking back and you're a new person right now. Even you learning how to speak as a child and write. You didn't know how to do that. But when you're a child, you're a lot less afraid to do things like that. As you become an adult, like, shit, I don't know. I'm going to lose my stability and my security. And that fear is what holds us back. And it's kind of, it really is going to help guide that process and have you think bigger. So it's great. And it ties in his other books, The Gap and the Gain, which is also excellent, and Who Not How, which is also excellent. Really good stuff. So Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy helped him write that. Phenomenal. It's just paradigm changing. As is Killing Sacred Cows, which is the fifth book on my list. I kind of describe this, it's by Garrett Gunderson. I describe this as financial philosophy. And it is when I help work with entrepreneurs and cool, we're getting to the point where you're making good money. What you do with that money is super important and how you invest it because it can change your life. And it's changed my life We talked about a little bit of that on the last episode as well, when we talked about real estate and what that does over the long haul. But it's really great because it's about, like, you get one life. It's not about stacking money, accumulation theory, stacking shit tons of money over years and never buying a Starbucks coffee today to save for retirement, which is one day. And you forgo your best years and all your experiences. And it's about how to use your unique gifts to keep providing value to the world that will also enhance your bank account too. So it's really neat. And this is what turned me on to infinite banking, which I pool all my money in that. And then I buy assets that I'm interested in, whether it's real estate that I love or businesses that I acquire, and I can use my unique talents to help catapult them to the next level. It's one of the things that gave me the courage to buy part of that business, Castile Armory, and they make fencing swords for sword fighting, which sounds really dorky, but I love doing it. Like that's what I love doing, right? I'm passionate about sword fighting, which is odd to say in 2025, but I love it. And I compete in tournaments of like 400 people. It's historic fencing. It's awesome. But he makes the best steel. He's a brilliant metallurgist and engineer, but he doesn't have all the skill sets I had as a business owner with marketing and all those things. And, first year of when we joined forces and I acquired part of it, we're up 44% year over year. We broke $1 million last year in revenue. It's awesome. But if I just did the Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, I'll just stop buying Starbucks coffee and put it all in this index fund, and maybe I'll touch it when I'm 65 and splurge a little bit, I wouldn't be living the life I am. And there's different ways to go about having your cake and eating it too. And Killing Sacred Cows gave me some financial philosophy into what money is. And you don't need to feel bad about making lots of money. You should. Unless you're a crook, money is evidence of value being given. And the more you can help somebody, the more value that you can bring to somebody in their life, the more money, the money just represents that. And so it's kind of paradigm shifting for me on the financial end. And that's what got me into infinite banking and real estate and acquisitions. And yeah, I do some stocks and stuff too, but it allows you to live the profit lifestyle, right? It's the key word being lifestyle. It's not just sock away money and never use it, because money has no value unless you use it. I don't know if you know that, but it doesn't have any value unless you use it. Until you exchange it for something that you value more than the money does nothing for you. Right? And it's as simple as like you paying rent or mortgage on your house. I value a roof over my head in a nice place more than the money, so I don't sleep on the streets and I have air conditioning or whatever it is. Right? So yeah, it's how to recognize how you can create more value in the world and not being afraid to spend your money to get value in your life. So love that book. And when I work with people on the investing side, I'm like, hey, read this book first, so we have the right mindset going into what money is and what money isn't. So that concludes mine.
That's really awesome, Scott. I actually have never heard of Killing Sacred Cows. Like, I've heard of The One Thing and and I've read every other book on your list, but I've never actually heard of Killing Sacred Cows. So I'm going to actually add that to my list, because that sounds like a great book. So thank you for that.
You're going to love it. You're going to love it. 100%.
Yeah. So we'll go over my list. We're going to start with probably the most influential book that I have ever read. And that's a bold statement, because I read a lot of books, but I read this very early on in my business career and my entrepreneurship. And it's called Built to Sell by John Warwillow. I'm butchering his last name and I apologize. And John, if you ever see this podcast, I'm so sorry. But essentially the concept of the book is that if you own a business, even if you don't plan on selling it, you need to run it like you plan on selling it. And this was a huge mind shift change for me, because when I first started my business, I was one of those business owners that's like, I just want to coach classes. I'll coach classes till I die, right? Like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to coach fitness. I'm going to coach people. I'm going to run classes, and that's all I'm going to do. And then I read this book and I said, oh no, that's not how this works. Right? Like, I need to build this so that it's a little bit different than that, so that I'm building an asset that doesn't need me, so that I'm building a business, not just getting myself a job. And it was a huge, huge mindset shift that really helped propel me into, instead of just being the best coach, being the best business owner. So I equate to where I am today a lot about reading that book early on in my entrepreneurial career. My next book has to do with leadership. This is one of my favorite books for multiple reasons. One, because it's leadership, but two, actually, it's how it's written. I have never, ever seen a book composed and organized so well in my entire life. And I just love how neatly it fits into a nice little box. And that is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. And essentially, the concept here is extreme ownership. Everything that happens in your life, you play a part in. You can't sit there and say, not my fault, not my job, because everything that happens is in some way, shape, or form your doing. And this really helped me become a much better leader because I could sit there and say, okay, yes, something got messed up. Yes, maybe one of my employees didn't follow through with what they were supposed to do, but where did I go wrong? What did I fail at? What could I have done better to help support them?
A lot of ties with Stoicism, right? And
Yeah,
Ryan Holiday's Obstacle is the Way. And I agree with you. The way it's written and his stories of like combat and then principle and then how it applies in business.
Yeah.
And then it's brilliant. Yeah. Really good.
It's so cleanly written. It's so easy to follow. And there's such a flow to it. There are plenty of books that I've read that have great concepts, but then the writing is actual shit. And it's so hard to follow. But this one, because of the way that it's organized, is just so neatly. It helps. I don't really have like OCD, but it helps my OCD tendencies to really be appeased with this one. And going into my third book, again, about leadership, when I opened a business, I knew nothing about leadership. I was not a very good leader, but I knew that I needed employees. So I started hiring people, but I was not very good at leading them. And so I spent many years, and actually one of our fellow team members, Josh Price, he's the one that got me turned on to Stoicism, first of all, which I love the concept, but watched me become a better leader because of some of these books. And my third one is called Radical Candor by Kim Scott. And the thing that struck me about this book is the opening story. And I don't remember if it's a parable. I don't remember if it's a true story, but essentially it plays out where this boss needs to pull an employee into their office because the employee has been sucking at their work. The boss fires the employee and the employee is shocked, completely blindsided that they're being fired. I've had to do that because I wasn't a good enough leader to be able to have the type of conversation that I needed with my employee to tell them the truth and be honest and open with them and give them the feedback that they needed. And it was an awful experience. I'm literally having a visceral reaction right now, just even thinking about that interaction that I had 5 years ago. And I told myself I never, ever wanted that to happen again. And when I started reading this book, the fact that that story was the beginning of the book, I was like, I need this. I need this in my life right now. And it really just talks about how to have open and honest conversations with everybody. Between extreme ownership and radical candor, it has built and become the foundation of my onboarding with every single one of my team members that I hire. And that's something that we can talk about in another podcast. And because a lot of team owners don't do some type of onboarding with their team members, I do it, and it's been game changing ever since I did it. But we'll talk about that in another podcast. But yeah, extreme ownership, radical candor by Kim Scott helped shape that and build the foundation of that. Moving into my fourth book, this should come as no surprise. I am a systems guy. I like neat little boxes and flows and work charts. So Traction by Gino Wickman. I mean, it took my business from basically floundering to implementing Traction and creating an operating system on how to do my gym from, I don't know, like 15,000 in gross revenue to like probably where I am today, just shy of 30,000 on monthly gross revenue. Like it changed how I did a lot of things. And yeah, again, going back to being a better leader, I now have weekly meetings that don't suck because of Traction. So it's just, it's been one of those things that's helped shape my business a lot. Not only that, but it helps shape other businesses that I am a part of.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say, for those of you that can't see and are not watching this video on the podcast, Scott is just shaking his head. We do a lot of Traction here at the Profit Lifestyle. So we both of us know the power of it. So
Yep. Absolutely.
Um,
It's a dense book. Like you need help. Like Andy is kind of, for those of you who don't know, Andy's kind of taken a lot of the principles in that book and created a system, right, to take gym owners through it too.
yeah.
But it's so powerful. You read that book and you're going to want to do everything in there, but you can't, you need a little bit of guidance through it too. Because I didn't really understand. I get it, right? I'm like, cool, I want to do everything, but like, it's really hard to get the wheels going on that without a little bit of guidance,
No, I mean,
right?
it took me years to really implement it fully, like to the point
Mm-hmm.
where we are now.
Yeah.
And so what I've done is basically categorized or cataloged all of that stuff. And now when I work with, some of the one-on-one mentorship clients that we have, and they need to implement systems in their business, I take them through the steps that I did in a more
Yeah.
condensed version, so it doesn't take them years. And I basically guide them through the process because it can be overwhelming and there's
Yeah.
a lot to it. So
And the great thing, guys, and sorry, I'm going to just keep
no, no, no.
interjecting because like you've done a really good job on our mentorship business, right? Implementing this in it. And he's kind of taken the integrator role as me as the visionary too. And then what he's really good at, like following that system, because you probably listening to this, if you're the owner, if you're the entrepreneur, you probably take on more and put it on your back because it just when you hand it off, it doesn't go that well. And you need better systems and delegations to be able to do that. I have not always been, me being a very classic visionary type, I don't always like the nuanced details of all the little small things. But I will jump in because I haven't created the systems. And then Andy, it was last week. You're like, no, you don't need to do that. It's not your job. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's not my job. I should stop. It's really helpful to buy your time back to start implementing that system.
Yeah, like I said, it's changed my business.
Mm-hmm.
It allows us to run the profit lifestyle much more efficiently than we than we
Yeah,
would be if we didn't.
already. And you just started in that role not too long ago. So it's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
But that brings up my fifth book, and this is a marketing book, and it's building a story brand by Donald Miller. He actually just came out with version 2.0. It's basically the same book, just with a couple of
Mm-hmm.
updates to it. So if you're looking to buy it, just buy version 2.0. You don't need to buy the original version. And for marketing, it has given me such clarity and focus in how to create messaging that speaks directly to our avatar client. And that's something that I think at least I know I struggled with, right? It's like when you have a business, you want to get your messaging out there. You want people to know about who you are and what you do. But it's so hard
Yeah.
because we want to try to help everybody. But if we speak to everybody, then we speak to nobody. And building a story brand really helped me create a filtering lens to really narrow down our messaging and say, who are we really speaking to? And what do we really do to help these people? And so
Mm-hmm.
now when we do our marketing, right, regardless of whatever marketing campaign we have going, I can sit down and say, here is the actual messaging we need to use. And building a story brand gave me that framework to be able to figure that out, which was super, super helpful. And so one of the things that we do in the profit lifestyle when we work on with our one-on-one mentor clients is help them define their avatar client and create that messaging. And a lot of that is built off of the framework of building a story brand and traction. So
Yeah.
both of those really helped, just like Built to Sell shifted my mindset, extreme ownership and radical candor made me the leader that I am today. Traction and building a story brand helped build the business that I have today,
Mm-hmm.
which is why those are important to me.
And what's funny is we've been reading these books for years and rereading these books for years.
I literally just reread Traction like 2 months ago.
Uh-huh.
Building a story brand, I had read when it first came out. I bought version 2.0,
Yep.
reread it, and extreme ownership by reference on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah. These are books that you just don't like, you read them once, like, wow, that was pretty amazing. But a lot of people don't take action on it, right? And
Yeah.
it does take you years to get it and to grasp all the different things. And again, you and I are both products of mentorship. We've hired so many different things and joined masterminds and courses. Like you got to put this stuff into play. You don't just read it and you're cured of your bad habits. It's work and it's time. Be patient with yourself, but also just go for it. Like make these changes.
I think that is a really good point, Scott. Is like we're going over our top 10 books, right? 5 each. But at the end of the day, just reading these doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And sometimes I know, especially with other business owners and entrepreneurs, you can just be voracious to consume as much knowledge as possible.
Yeah.
And that's great, except when you don't put it into practice. And
Yep.
so it should never be about how many books you have read. It should be about how many books you've implemented. And that's really what it comes down to. And all the books that are in my top 5 are things that I implemented either to put me where I am today or on a daily basis moving forward. So realistically, everyone listening to this podcast or watching on YouTube or whatever, take this list, but don't just run through it. Figure out how to implement each one of these things in your life and in your business, and it will move you 10x every time you do it.
Yep. And that doubles down for all of them. But like marketing's so simple when you're reading the book. You're like, oh, it makes perfect sense. I've been doing it. And then you sit down to try and do it on your business. And you're like, I don't know what to do. It's really hard. And it takes a while to wrap your head around that kind of marketing brain. That's where I've struggled the most. And I mean, now I excel at it, but it was a big learning curve for me.
Yeah. I mean, I read so many marketing books to try to come up with something. And then I struggled forever. And only within the last, year or so have we really implemented a full-blown marketing strategy based off the knowledge that I have from everything else. But and it's made a huge difference, but if I didn't implement it, then I'd still be where I was 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So guys, I hope this was useful to you. Yes. Don't rush out and read all 10 of these books in the next quarter. Okay. Take it slow. But again, the good books, read it and reread it, at different points in your life, in your career. It'll move you forward and forward and forward. Don't be trying to read 52 books this year. It's ridiculous. So hopefully that's a good starting point for you, depending on kind of where your opportunities lie. This was useful to you. Like the podcast, review the podcast. It helps out a lot. It really does. And it helps share this kind of knowledge. Subscribe to it, share it, all that good stuff. Thank you very much for tuning in. And we will see you next week on the Profit Lifestyle for Fitness Entrepreneurs podcast. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Listen, if you're stuck and could use some advice in your business, whether you're just starting out, a veteran in the business, or expanding online or into multiple locations, you can hop on a free call with us to pick our brains at ptlegends.com/one-on-one call. You can see that in the show notes. That is with numbers. Chances are we'll be able to help you get some clarity on what you need to do specifically in your business to get to the next level. It's not a sales call. We'll connect you with the right resources to help you solve your problems. But if you want to learn more about working with us, that's cool too. We can share that information should you want it. So book your call now to get out of the rat race before your week consumes you, which is easy to do at ptlegends.com/one-on-one call. That's with the number 1 on the number 1 call. You can find this in the show notes. See you soon.